I stood in my boxers and yesterday's t-shirt, watching the dark liquid drip into the carf, while my wife Carla primped herself into corporate perfection at the kitchen island. "Nathan, did you remember to transfer money for Ellie's SAT prep?" she asked without looking up from her phone, her manicured fingers dancing across the screen like she was conducting a symphony of "It's Nate." "You've called me Nate for 19 years, Carla." I poured coffee into my favorite mug, the one that said "World's okayest dad that the kids got me last Father's Day." And yes, I transferred the money 500s to torture our daughter with standardized tests. Carla finally looked up, her perfectly applied makeup making her look like she was ready for a magazine shoot rather than another day at TechFlow Solutions where she worked as their PR director. At 39, she was still beautiful in that calculated way that required 2 hours of preparation every morning. Don't be dramatic. Ellie needs those scores for college applications. She grabbed her designer coffee tumbler and filled it with the good stuff, the organic fair trade beans that cost more than my lunch budget. "I have that client dinner tonight, so I'll be home late again." "Right, the client dinner." I took a sip of coffee and watched her over the rim of my mug. With Rick Calder, something flickered across her face just for a second before she smiled that PR smile she'd perfected. "Rick's the regional director, Nathan. Of course, he'll be there. It's a team event." "Nate," I corrected again, and I'm sure it is. Our daughter Ellie bounced into the kitchen, 17 years old and still managing to look like a normal human being despite sharing DNA with us. She had Carla's dark hair but my stubborn chin, which served her well when dealing with her mother's expectations. "Morning, Dad." She kissed my cheek and grabbed an apple from the bowl. "Mom, can I borrow your car tonight? Jessica is having people over to work on our history project." "Take your father's car," Carla said, not looking up from her phone. "I might need mine later." "For the client dinner that ends at 9 OMAC, I asked. "What time does the after-party start?" Carlo's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Sometimes these things run long. Networking is part of the job." "Right. Networking." I finished my coffee and rinsed the mug in the sink. "Well, network responsibly. Wouldn't want you to do something you'd regret." Our son Adam shuffled in, 14 and perpetually attached to his gaming headset which hung around his neck like an electronic necklace. "Dad, can you drive me to school?" "Mom's car smells like that gross perfume she started wearing." "It's Tom Ford and it was expensive," Carla snapped. "It smells like a strip club," Adam said with the brutal honesty only teenagers possess. Adam, Carla's voice could have cut glass. "How would you know what a strip club smells like?" I asked, genuinely curious. "Call of Duty. They have a strip club level." I laughed despite myself. "Of course they do." "Yeah, I'll drive you. Ellie, you need a ride too." "I'm good. Taking the bus with friends." She grabbed her backpack, a massive thing that probably weighed more than she did. "Love you guys. Try not to kill each other before I get home." After the kids left, the kitchen felt smaller, more tense. Carla was still scrolling through her phone with the intensity of someone defusing a bomb. "Busy morning?" I asked. "Always." She didn't look up. "Rick's been texting about tonight's presentation. He's nervous about the Hartwell account, I bet he is. Big account, huge. Could mean a promotion for both of us if we land it." "Both of you?" "That's nice. Very collaborative." She finally looked at me and I saw something I hadn't seen in months. Guilt. Just a flash of it before she covered it with irritation. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. Just nice that you work so well together." Carla grabbed her purse and keys, moving with the efficiency of someone eager to escape. "I have to go." "Early meeting?" She kissed my cheek, a quick pre-functor peck that felt more like a business transaction than affection, and headed for the garage. I watched her go, noting how she'd started dressing differently over the past few months. Tighter skirts, lower necklines, shoes that cost more than my car payment. The garage door rumbled open and closed, and I was alone with the coffee maker's dying gurgles and the lingering scent of Tom Ford perfume that did in fact smell like what I imagined a high-end strip club would smell like. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found Derek, my younger brother and the only person I trusted to tell me the truth, even when it hurt. "It's 8 in the morning," Derek answered on the second ring. "Someone better be dead or on fire." "Good morning to you too, sunshine. Question for you. Hypothetically speaking, if your wife started wearing expensive perfume, staying out late for work events, and spending a suspicious amount of time texting her male colleague, what would your professional opinion be?" Derek was quiet for a moment. He'd been a cop for 15 years before retiring early due to a knee injury, and he had good instincts about people and their... "Hypothetically, I'd say your hypothetical wife is probably sleeping with her hypothetical colleague. That's what I was afraid you'd say." "Nate, man, I'm sorry. You want me to do some digging? I still have contacts who owe me favors, not yet. Maybe I'm just being paranoid. Maybe, but probably not. Your gut's usually pretty good about this stuff. Remember when you said something was off about Mom's boyfriend, Carl? The one who turned out to be married with 3 kids in Phoenix? That's the one. Trust your instincts, brother." After I hung up, I sat in the kitchen for another 20 minutes drinking coffee and trying to convince myself I was imagining things. But the evidence was piling up like snow in a blizzard. Small at first, then impossible to ignore. The new clothes, the late nights, the way she said Rick's name with just a little too much familiarity. The fact that she'd stopped complaining about her job, which she'd hated for 2 years, until suddenly about 6 months ago it became the most important thing in her life. I looked around our kitchen. Granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, the kind of domestic perfection that belonged in a magazine spread about successful suburban families. We'd worked for years to build this life, this image of having it all figured out. But images were just that. Surfaces that looked good from a distance but cracked when you got too close. My phone buzzed with a text from Carla. "Forgot to mention girls' night Friday with Jenna and Sophie will be out late." I stared at the message for a long time before typing back, "Have fun. Be safe." What I wanted to type was, "Which Rick will you be with?" But I wasn't ready for that conversation yet. I needed to be sure. I needed proof, because once you accuse your wife of cheating, there's no taking it back. Either you're right and your marriage is over, or you're wrong and your marriage is over anyway, because she'll never forgive you for not trusting her. I finished my coffee, got dressed, and drove to my job at Pinnacle Furniture Design, where I managed accounts for people who spent more on a single chair than most people spent on a car. It was steady work, respectable work. But it wasn't the kind of job that made wives stay faithful or colleagues respect you. Not like being a regional director at a hot tech startup. Not like driving a Porsche and wearing suits that cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. Not like being Rick Calder. The thing about suspicion is that it's like a splinter under your skin. The more you try to ignore it, the deeper it burrows. By Thursday, I couldn't concentrate on anything. I sat in my office at Pinnacle, staring at furniture catalogs and thinking about my wife's new perfume. Carmen Rodriguez knocked on my doorframe. She was our HR manager, a sharp woman in her early 40s who'd always been friendly but professional. Today, she looked concerned. "You okay, Nate? You seem distracted this week, just tired kids keeping me up." It wasn't entirely a lie. Adam had been gaming until 2 in the morning, and Ellie was stressed about college applications. Carmen stepped into my office and closed the door behind her. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Shoot." "Are things okay at home? You've seemed, I don't know, different lately." I leaned back in my chair and studied her face. Carmen had always been perceptive, but this felt like more than casual concern. Why do you ask? She hesitated, then sat down across from my desk. My sister works at TechFlow Solutions in accounting. She mentioned seeing your wife at some company events with Rick Calder. My stomach dropped like a stone. What kind of events? The kind that don't usually include accounting staff, if you know what I mean. Private dinners, weekend retreats that aren't on the official company calendar. I felt like I was drowning in slow motion. Your sister told you this? She likes gossip, but she's not malicious. When she mentioned your wife's name, I put two and two together. I'm sorry, Nate. I probably shouldn't have said anything. No, I'm glad you did. My voice sounded strange, like it was coming from someone else. How long has this been going on? A few months from what Maria said. Look, I could be wrong. Maybe it's all innocent, but we both knew it wasn't. I thanked Carmen and spent the rest of the day pretending to work while my mind raced through the implications. When I got home that evening, Carla was already getting ready for her girls' night out. You're home early, she said, applying lipstick in the bedroom mirror. She was wearing a black dress I'd never seen before, something that showed more skin than seemed appropriate for dinner with female co-workers. Slow day, that's a nice dress. Knew this old thing. I've had it forever. Another lie delivered with the casual ease of someone who'd had practice. Where are you girls going tonight? That new place downtown. Jenna made reservations. I nodded and kissed her cheek, tasting the lipstick and that expensive perfume. Have fun. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. She laughed, but it sounded forced. That doesn't leave much off the table, does it? After she left, I called Derek. I need that favor now, I said without preamble. What do you need? Carla says she's at Meridian downtown with her girlfriends. Can you check? Give me an hour. I spent that hour pacing the house like a caged animal. Ellie was at a friend's house working on a project. Adam was in his room, headset on, yelling at strangers on the internet about their tactical incompetence. Normal teenage Friday night behavior. Derek called back at 9:30. She's not at Meridian, he said, but Rick Calder's Porsche is parked at the Grand View Hotel. Room 412, registered under his name. The world tilted sideways. I sat down hard on the couch, my legs suddenly unable to support my weight. You sure? Dead sure. I've got a buddy who works security there. Called her. Checked in this afternoon, paid for the weekend. The weekend? Nate. I'm sorry, man. You want me to come over? No, I need to think. Don't do anything stupid. Whatever you're thinking about doing, sleep on it first. I hung up and sat in the dark living room listening to the house settle around me. 19 years of marriage, 2 kids, a mortgage, a life built on what I thought was solid ground, now revealed to be quicksand. My phone buzzed with a text from Carla. Having so much fun. Probably won't be home until late. Don't wait up. Love you. I stared at the message for a long time before typing back. Love you too. But as I hit send, I realized it might be the last time I'd write those words and mean them. Saturday morning, Carla came home at 11 looking perfectly put together, despite her supposed night of drinking with the girls. She kissed my forehead and went straight to the shower, humming something under her breath. How was girls' night? I asked when she came back downstairs in her robe. Great. We stayed out way too late. I'm getting too old for this. She laughed and started making coffee. Jenna got completely wasted and started crying about her divorce. Sophie and I had to pour her into an Uber. The lies came so easily, so naturally. I wondered how long she'd been practicing them. That's too bad about Jenna. Divorce is rough. Yeah, well, she married and some people just make bad choices. I almost choked on my coffee, do they? Of course. You can't really know someone until you live with them for a while. People hide who they really are. The irony was so thick I could have spread it on toast. That's true. People definitely hide who they really are. She looked at me sharply as if hearing something in my tone. But then Ellie bounded downstairs asking for money for a movie with friends. And the moment passed. That afternoon, while Carla napped off her fictional hangover, I drove to Derek's apartment across town. He lived in a converted warehouse in an area that was trying very hard to be trendy but hadn't quite made it yet. "You look like," he said when he opened the door. "I feel worse." What do I do, Derek? Do I confront her? Do I hire a lawyer? Do I pretend I don't know and hope it goes away? It's not going away, brother. This kind of thing never just goes away. He handed me a beer and sat down across from me in his living room, which was decorated an early bachelor. Black leather furniture and a TV that took up most of one wall. The question is, what do you want to happen? I want my wife back. I want my family back. I want to rewind 6 months and figure out where I went wrong. Maybe you didn't go wrong. Maybe she's just a cheating witch who got bored. Don't call her that. Why not? That's what she is. I took a long pull of beer and tried to organize my thoughts. We have kids, Derek, a house, a life. I can't just blow it all up because she made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk. This is a choice. Multiple choices over months. She's been lying to your face every single day. He was right, but that didn't make it easier to accept. So what do you suggest? Document everything, get proof, then decide if you want to try to save the marriage or burn it to the ground. How do I get proof? Derek smiled. And it wasn't a nice smile. Leave that to me. I still know people who know people. By Tuesday, Derek had delivered a manila envelope that felt like it weighed $1,000 LB. Inside were photographs, credit card receipts, and hotel records going back 3 months. The pictures were the worst. Carla and Rick holding hands in restaurant booths, kissing in parking garages, entering hotel rooms together. In one photo taken last weekend while she was supposedly consoling drunk Jenna. Carla was laughing at something Rick was saying, her hand on his chest, looking happier than I'd seen her in years. I spread the evidence across my kitchen table after everyone had gone to bed and tried to make sense of how my marriage had become a crime scene. The receipts told a story of expensive dinners, weekend getaways, and gifts I'd never seen. Rick had good taste. Flowers from the city's most exclusive florist, jewelry from Tiffany, lingerie from boutiques I couldn't afford to walk past. My phone rang, making me jump. It was Derek. "You get the package?" "Yeah, it's comprehensive. That's not even all of it. My guy says they've been sloppy lately, acting like a real couple in public. Calder's been bragging about her at work, apparently calling her his special project." I felt sick. His special project. That's what my source says. Look, Nate, there's something else. Something you're not going to like more than this. Calder's married too. Wife's name is Patricia. 2 kids, both in private school. And get this, he's done this before at least twice that we know of. It's his pattern. Finds married women at work, wines and dines them, then moves on when he gets bored. The room spun around me. Carla wasn't just cheating. She was being used by a serial philanderer who saw her as another conquest. Does his wife know? Not yet, but she's about to. "Derek, what did you do?" "Nothing permanent yet, but Patricia Calder deserves to know what kind of man she's married to." Don't you think? I looked at the photos scattered across my table. My wife's face glowing with happiness as she kissed another woman's husband, and felt something cold and hard settle in my chest. "Yeah," I said. "She does." Wednesday morning, Carla was in an unusually good mood, humming while she made coffee and actually asking about my day instead of staring at her phone. "You seem happy," I observed. "It's a beautiful morning. Can't a person be happy?" She kissed my cheek and I smelled Rick's cologne on her hair. "Of course. Any particular reason? Do I need a reason? Maybe I just appreciate what I have." She gestured around our kitchen, but her smile felt rehearsed. That's nice. I appreciate what I have, too. Or what I thought I had. She looked at me sharply. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Just agreeing with you about appreciation. Ellie came downstairs, backpack in hand. Dad, can you pick me up after school? I have tea prep until 6, go. Sure, sweetheart, your mom working late again? Probably, Carla said quickly. Big presentation tomorrow. The team might need to work through dinner. The team, I repeated. Right, well, work hard. I know how important the presentation is to you. Carla's coffee mug stopped halfway to her lips. What? Nothing. Just know how dedicated you are to your work. After she left, I called in sick to work and drove to TechFlow Solutions. I'd never been to Carla's office before. She'd always said spouses weren't allowed due to security policies, but I wanted to see where she spent her days, where she'd fallen in love with someone else. The building was all glass and steel, the kind of place that screamed innovation and disruption. I parked across the street and waited. At 11:30, Carla and Rick emerged from the building together. He was exactly what I had expected. Tall, well-dressed, the kind of artificially confident smile that came from years of getting his way. They walked close together, his hand on the small of her back, guiding her toward his silver Porsche. I followed them to a restaurant I recognized from the credit card receipts. Through the window, I watched them share a bottle of wine and hold hands across the table like teenagers in love. My phone buzzed with a text from Carla. Stuck in meetings all day. Probably won't have time for lunch. I took a picture of them through the restaurant window and sent it to Derek with a message. Meeting in progress. He texted back immediately. Jesus, Nate, they're not even trying to hide it anymore. I sat in my car and watched my wife laugh at Rick's jokes. Saw her lean across the table to whisper something in his ear that made him grin like he'd won the lottery. They looked happy, really genuinely happy in a way that Carla and I hadn't been in years. That hurt worse than the betrayal itself. The knowledge that she was capable of joy, just not with me. My phone rang. Carmen from work. Nate, I know you called in sick, but I wanted to check on you. Are you okay? I'm fine. Just needed a mental health day. Are you sure? Because if you need someone to talk to. I looked through the restaurant window again. Rick was feeding Carla a bite of dessert and she was laughing like it was the funniest thing in the world. Carmen, can I ask you something? If someone you trusted betrayed you, really betrayed you, what would you do? She was quiet for a moment. I'd make sure they understood the consequences of their choices, even if it meant hurting other people. Sometimes people need to be hurt to learn. Sometimes it's the only way they understand that actions have consequences. After I hung up, I sat in the parking lot and made a decision. I was done being the oblivious husband, the fool who worked late while his wife played house with her boyfriend. If Carla wanted to blow up our marriage, fine. But she was going to own the consequences. I drove home and called Derek. I'm ready, I said. Ready for what? To make sure they understand the consequences of their choices. Derek was quiet for a long moment. You sure about this? Once we start down this road, there's no going back. I looked around my kitchen at the family photos on the refrigerator, at the coffee mug Carla had left in the sink with her lipstick still on the rim. I'm sure. What do we do first? First, we make sure Rick's wife gets those photos, then we get creative. Patricia Calder was a small, elegant woman with tired eyes and the kind of posture that suggested she had been carrying a heavy burden for a long time. I met her at a coffee shop downtown Thursday afternoon after Derek had made the initial contact. Thank you for coming, I said as she sat down across from me. I know this must be difficult. Difficult doesn't begin to cover it. Her voice was steady, but I could see her hands shaking as she reached for her coffee. Your brother said you had evidence about Rick and your wife. I slid the manila envelope across the table. I'm sorry. I know you don't know me, but I thought you deserved to know the truth. She opened the envelope and looked through the photographs, her expression never changing. When she finished, she carefully put everything back and closed the envelope. How long? She asked. 3 months that I can prove. Maybe longer. This isn't the first time, she said quietly. I've suspected before, but I never had proof. Rick's very good at making me feel like I'm imagining things. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm glad to finally know for certain. She looked at me with those tired eyes. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. What about you? I'm going to talk to a lawyer, and then I'm going to make sure Rick understands that I'm not as stupid as he thinks I am. She stood up, clutching the envelope. Thank you for this. I know it couldn't have been easy. After she left, I sat in the coffee shop and felt the first stirring of something I hadn't experienced in months, a sense of purpose. For too long, I'd been passive, letting things happen to me instead of taking control. That was about to change. That evening, Carla came home in another good mood, carrying takeout from our favorite Thai restaurant. Thought we could have a nice dinner together, she said, unpacking containers of pad Thai and green curry. Just the two of us. The kids are both out. That's thoughtful. What's the occasion? No occasion. Can't a wife surprise her husband? We ate dinner and made small talk about work and the kids' schedules. Carla was animated, telling funny stories about her co-workers and asking about my day. It was like having dinner with the woman I'd married, the one who disappeared somewhere along the way. This is nice, I said. We should do this more often. I'd like that. She reached across the table and took my hand. I know I've been distracted lately with work stuff. I want to make more time for us. I looked at her face, still beautiful, still familiar after 19 years, and wondered if this was guilt or if Rick had told her to be nicer to her husband to avoid suspicion. I'd like that too, I said, and meant it even though I knew it was too late. My phone buzzed with a text from Derek. Package delivered. Patricia's lawyer filed papers this morning. Rick's about to have a very bad day. I excused myself to use the bathroom and called Derek back. How bad? I whispered. Divorce papers served at his office this afternoon in front of his boss and half the company. Patricia is asking for everything: house, kids, alimony, the works. She's also threatening to file a lawsuit against TechFlow for creating a hostile work environment that enabled the affair. Jesus, it gets better. She's documented 3 previous affairs Rick had with co-workers. Company's in full damage control mode. Rick's been suspended pending an investigation. I felt a surge of satisfaction that surprised me with its intensity. What about Carla? That's the interesting part. Patricia specifically named her in the divorce filing. As of this afternoon, your wife is officially the other woman in a very public, very messy divorce. I hung up and returned to the dining room where Carla was checking her phone with increasing agitation. Everything okay? I asked. Work stuff crisis at the office. She was typing furiously, her face pale. I might need to go in tonight on a Thursday night. That seems excessive. It's important. She stood up abruptly. I'm sorry, Nathan. Rain check on a romantic evening. Of course, handle your crisis. She kissed my forehead and grabbed her keys. Don't wait up. After she left, I cleaned up the dinner dishes and waited. At 10:30, my phone rang. Nate. Carla's voice was shaky. Can you come get me? My car won't start. Where are you? The office. I'm in the parking lot. I drove to TechFlow and found Carla standing next to her car, looking smaller and more vulnerable than I'd seen her in years. Her eyes were red and her perfect makeup was smudged. What happened? I asked. Rick's wife filed for divorce. She's claiming that we... She couldn't finish the sentence. That you what? That we were having an affair. She looked at me with desperate eyes. "It's not true, Nathan. I swear to you it's not true. She's just trying to hurt Rick by dragging innocent people into it." I stared at my wife, this woman I'd loved for 19 years, as she lied directly to my face with tears in her eyes. "That's terrible," I said. "Why would she think that?" "I don't know. Maybe because Rick and I work together a lot. People see us talking and make assumptions." "People can be so cruel," I agreed, "making assumptions based on appearances." On the drive home, Carla was quiet, staring out the window with her arms wrapped around herself like she was trying to hold something in. "Nathan," she said finally, "if people start saying things about me and Rick, you'll know they're not true, right? You trust me, don't you?" I looked at her in the rearview mirror, this woman who was asking me to trust her while she was actively betraying me. "Of course I trust you," I said. "You're my wife." But as we pulled into our driveway, I was already planning my next move. Friday morning brought the first real consequences. Carla's phone started ringing at 6 a.m. and didn't stop. She answered the first few calls in whispered, urgent tones before finally turning it off entirely. "Work?" I asked, pouring coffee. "Patricia called her as trying to destroy Rick's career. She's making wild accusations and dragging everyone down with her." Carla's hands shook as she reached for her coffee mug. "My boss wants to see me this morning. I'm sure it'll be fine. You haven't done anything wrong." She looked at me with something that might have been hope. "You really believe that?" "I believe you'll get exactly what you deserve." After she left, I called Carmen at work. "I need another favor," I said. "What kind of favor?" "The kind that might get me in trouble if anyone finds out." "I'm listening." "I need access to TechFlow's building just for an hour. Can your sister help?" Carmen was quiet for a moment. "What are you planning, Nate?" "Nothing illegal. I just want to see where my wife spends her days. This is a bad idea, probably. Will you help me anyway?" She sighed. "Maria owes me money. I'll see what I can do." 2 hours later, I was walking through TechFlow's lobby wearing a visitor's badge and following Maria Rodriguez, Carmen's sister, toward the elevators. "Your wife's office is on the 7th floor, Maria said. "But she's in meetings all morning. Something about damage control." "That's fine. I just want to look around." Maria led me to Carla's office, a glass-walled space with a view of the city and photos of our family on her desk. It looked normal, professional, until I opened her desk drawer and found a spare phone charger for an iPhone. Carla had a Samsung. "Maria, does my wife have a company iPhone?" "No, we're all Samsung. Company contract." I looked more carefully around the office and found other small inconsistencies. Men's cologne in her desk drawer. A restaurant receipt for 2 expensive dinners on a day I knew she'd eaten lunch at home. A hotel key card tucked behind her computer monitor. "Can you show me Rick Calder's office?" Maria looked uncomfortable. "He's been suspended. His office is locked." "Just from the outside, I want to see where he works." Rick's office was larger than Carla's, with awards on the walls and expensive furniture that screamed success. Through the glass, I could see family photos of Rick with his wife and kids, all smiles and perfect teeth. "He seemed successful," I said. "He was until yesterday. Now everyone's talking about the lawsuit. Patricia Calder's lawyer sent a letter to our CEO threatening to sue the company for enabling workplace harassment." "What kind of harassment?" "The kind where married executives sleep with their subordinates?" Maria looked around nervously. "I shouldn't be telling you this. Carla's not Rick's subordinate. She's a director." "She was. Rick got her promoted 6 months ago. Before that, she was just a senior coordinator." The pieces clicked into place. The timeline matched perfectly. Carla's sudden happiness at work, the new clothes, the promotion she'd claimed was based on merit. Rick had been grooming her, using his position to seduce her with career advancement and expensive gifts. Maria, I need one more favor. I've already done too much. I need you to make sure everyone in this building knows exactly what kind of man Rick Calder is. She looked at me for a long moment. What do you have in mind? That afternoon, while Carla was still in damage control meetings, Maria sent an email to the entire company. It was carefully worded to avoid legal issues, but the message was clear. Rick Calder had a pattern of using his position to manipulate female employees into relationships, and the company was taking the allegations seriously. The email included a link to a confidential report that was actually a compilation of everything Derrick had uncovered about Rick's previous affairs, complete with dates, names, and photographic evidence. By 5:01 p.m., it had been forwarded to every employee in the company and was spreading through social media. Rick's reputation was destroyed in a single afternoon. Carla came home that evening looking like she'd been hit by a truck. She went straight to the bedroom without speaking and didn't come down for dinner. I found her sitting on our bed, staring at her phone with tears streaming down her face. "Bad day?" I asked. "They fired him." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Rick's been terminated. They're reviewing my employment status pending an investigation." "I'm sorry to hear that." She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. "Are you? Are you really sorry?" "I'm sorry you're upset. I hate seeing you in pain. But you're not sorry Rick got fired." I sat down on the bed next to her, close enough to touch but not touching. "Should I be? From what I hear, he brought this on himself. You don't understand. Rick's a good man. He's been nothing but professional with me. Patricia is just a vindictive witch who can't stand that her husband works with attractive women." The casual way she called another woman a witch for defending her marriage made something snap inside me. "Is that what you think? That Patricia Calder is just jealous?" "I know she is. She's been calling the office, making threats, trying to destroy innocent people's careers just to hurt Rick." "Innocent people?" "Yes, innocent people like me." I looked at my wife, this woman who was sitting in our bedroom calling herself innocent while defending the man she'd been cheating with for months, and felt the last of my sympathy evaporate. "Carla, can I ask you something?" "What?" "If someone had evidence that Rick wasn't as professional as you think, would you want to know?" She went very still. "What kind of evidence?" I pulled out my phone and showed her one of the photos Derrick had taken. Her and Rick kissing in the parking garage behind her office building. The color drained from her face. "Where did you get this? Does it matter? Is it real?" She stared at the photo for a long time before finally nodding. "Yes, it's real." "How long, Carla?" 3 months, maybe 4. "Are you in love with him?" She started crying again, but this time it was different. Not the desperate tears of someone caught, but the broken sobs of someone who'd lost something precious. I thought he loved me too. But when Patricia filed for divorce, when everything started falling apart, he told me it was just a fling, that I shouldn't have taken it seriously. She wiped her nose with the back of her hand. He said I was a distraction, nothing more. I felt a strange mixture of anger and pity. Anger at her betrayal, pity for her pain. Rick had used her exactly the way Derrick had predicted. And now she was learning the hard way that she'd been just another conquest. "What do you want to do now?" I asked. "I don't know. I've ruined everything, haven't I? Our marriage, my career, the kids' stability, all for a man who never loved me." I looked at her sitting there, broken and vulnerable, and realized I had a choice. I could comfort her, forgive her, try to rebuild what we'd had, or I could finish what I'd started. "Yes," I said quietly. "You have ruined everything." She looked up at me with surprise and hurt, as if she'd expected me to console her. But the question is, I continued, what are you going to do about it? The weekend passed in a strange, tense quiet. Carla stayed in the bedroom most of Saturday, coming out only to make coffee and pick at meals she didn't eat. Ellie and Adam sensed something was wrong, but didn't ask questions, probably assuming it was just another one of our periodic rough patches. Sunday evening, Carla finally emerged looking more like herself, showered, dressed, makeup applied with her usual precision. "We need to talk," she said. "Okay, kids. At friends' houses, we have a few hours." We sat in the living room on opposite ends of the couch that had once been a place where we'd watched movies together and fallen asleep in each other's arms. "I want to try to save our marriage," she said. "If you'll let me, what would that look like? I'll quit my job. We could go to counseling. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right." I studied her face, looking for sincerity, for some sign that she understood the magnitude of what she'd done. "Why?" "Because I love you. Because we have a family. Because I made a terrible mistake and I want to fix it. Do you love me? Or do you love the security I represent now that Rick has made it clear you were just a distraction?" She flinched. "That's not fair, isn't it? 3 days ago you were defending him, calling his wife a vindictive witch. Now that he's thrown you away, suddenly you want to work on our marriage." I was confused. I thought what Rick and I had was real. It was real. The intimacy was real. The lies were real. The betrayal was real. What wasn't real was his commitment to you. She started crying again. "I know I hurt you. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but please, Nathan, don't give up on us." I looked at this woman I'd loved for 19 years, who'd shared my bed and raised my children and built a life with me, and tried to find some remnant of the feeling that had once made me promise to love her forever. "I can't," I said finally. "Can't what?" "Can't forgive you, can't pretend this didn't happen. Can't go back to the way things were?" Her face crumpled. "So that's it? You're just going to throw away 19 years? I'm not throwing anything away. You already did that. The kids need us together. The kids need parents who respect each other, who are honest with each other. We can't give them that anymore." She was quiet for a long time, staring at her hands. When she looked up, there was something different in her eyes, a hardness I'd never seen before. "Fine," she said, "if that's how you want it. But don't think this is going to be easy for you. I'm not going to just disappear quietly. What's that supposed to mean? It means I have rights. It means I'm entitled to half of everything we've built together. It means you're going to pay alimony and child support. And I'm going to make sure I get every penny I deserve." And there it was, the real Carla, the one who'd been hiding behind the tears and apologies. The woman who thought she could cheat on her husband for months, get caught, and still walk away with half of everything. "You think you deserve half?" "I think I'm legally entitled to it. I've been a good wife and mother for 19 years. One mistake doesn't erase all of that. One mistake. You had a 3-month affair with your boss. You lied to me every single day. You used our family as cover while you played house with another woman's husband. I made some bad choices. That doesn't mean I should be punished forever." I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at our neighborhood, the perfect suburban street where we'd raised our children and pretended to be happy. "You're right. I said you shouldn't be punished forever, but you should understand that choices have consequences." "What does that mean?" I turned back to face her. "It means you're about to learn that I'm not the pushover you think I am." Monday morning, Carla left early for a meeting with a lawyer. I called in sick to work again and spent the morning making phone calls of my own. The first call was to Patricia Calder. "Mrs. Calder, it's Nathan Driscoll. We met last week." "Of course. How are you holding up?" "I've been better. I wanted to ask you about your lawsuit against TechFlow." "What about it?" "My wife is named in your divorce filing. I'm wondering if you'd be interested in additional evidence of Rick's pattern of behavior." There was a pause. "What kind of evidence?" The kind that shows this wasn't just an affair. It was systematic manipulation of a subordinate employee. Rick used his position to coerce my wife into a relationship, then abandoned her when it became inconvenient. That would be very helpful for my case, and it might help your wife, too, if she's willing to testify about the coercion. I don't think she'll testify willingly, but there might be other ways to document what happened. My second call was to Derek. I need the nuclear option, I said. You sure? Once we do this, there's no taking it back. I'm sure Carla thinks she can cheat on me and then take half of everything I've worked for. She's about to learn otherwise. What do you want me to do? Everything. I want Rick's life destroyed, and I want everyone to know exactly what kind of woman my wife really is. Derek was quiet for a moment. This is going to get ugly, Nate. It's already ugly. I'm just making sure everyone can see it clearly. That afternoon, while Carla was still meeting with lawyers, Derek's contacts went to work. By evening, Rick Calder's personal information was all over social media. His address, his phone number, photos of him with multiple women who weren't his wife, details of his previous affairs, and evidence of his pattern of using his position to manipulate female employees. But that was just the beginning. Derek had also uncovered something interesting about TechFlow's employee handbook. The company had a strict policy against relationships between supervisors and subordinates. Rick's affair with Carla wasn't just morally wrong, it was a violation of company policy that could result in termination for both parties. More importantly, it was the kind of violation that could void certain benefits like severance packages and stock options. Carla came home that evening looking confident for the first time in days. My lawyer thinks we have a strong case, she said. Community property laws are pretty clear. I should get half of everything plus alimony and child support. That's nice. How much is half of everything with the house, your retirement accounts, and my stock options from TechFlow? Probably around $800,000. I nodded thoughtfully. About those stock options? What about them? Did you mention to your lawyer that you were fired for violating company policy? Her face went pale. I wasn't fired. I was suspended pending investigation. Check your email. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through her messages. I watched her face change as she read the termination letter that had been sent an hour earlier. They can't do this, she whispered. Actually, they can. Violation of the relationship policy is grounds for immediate termination without severance. Your stock options are forfeit, but I need those options for the divorce settlement. Needed? I corrected, past tense. They're gone now. She stared at her phone in shock. How did you know? Lucky guess. But it wasn't luck, and we both knew it. It was the consequence of her choices finally catching up with her. This isn't over, she said. You're right, I agreed. It's just getting started. Tuesday morning brought the first signs that our private war was about to become very public. Carla's phone started ringing before dawn. Reporters who'd somehow gotten hold of the story about TechFlow's intimate harassment scandal and wanted comments from the other woman. How did they get my number? She asked, staring at her phone like it was a snake. Maybe Rick gave it to them. Or maybe Patricia's lawyer leaked it. Does it matter? She looked at me with suspicion. You didn't have anything to do with this. With what? Your affair becoming public knowledge? That was your choice, not mine. By noon, there were news vans parked outside our house. Ellie called from school, upset and embarrassed that her friends were seeing her mother's name in articles about corporate scandals and extramarital affairs. Dad, what's going on? She asked. Kids are showing me stuff on their phones about Mom. Come home, I said. We need to have a family meeting. I picked up both kids from school and brought them home through the back entrance to avoid the reporters. Carla was waiting in the living room, looking like she'd aged 10 years in a single day. Kids, I said, your mother and I need to tell you something. For the next hour, we explained as gently as possible that we were getting divorced. We didn't go into details about the affair, but the kids weren't stupid. They'd seen the news reports. They knew why reporters were camped outside our house. Ellie cried. Adam asked if he could live with me. Carla looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. "This is temporary," she kept saying. "The media attention will die down. Things will go back to normal," but I knew they wouldn't. Derek had made sure of that. That evening, after the kids were in their rooms and the reporters had finally left, Carla confronted me in the kitchen. "This is you, isn't it? The media attention, the timing of my termination, all of it. You're orchestrating this. I'm not orchestrating anything. I'm just not protecting you from the consequences of your actions anymore. You're trying to destroy me. I'm trying to make sure everyone knows who you really are." She stared at me with a mixture of fear and hatred. "I underestimated you. Yes, you did. You thought I was weak. You thought I'd just accept your betrayal and quietly give you half of everything I've worked for. What do you want from me? I want you to understand that actions have consequences. I want you to know what it feels like to lose everything that matters to you. The kids matter to me. Do they? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like Rick mattered more." She slapped me hard. The sound echoed through the kitchen like a gunshot. I touched my cheek and smiled. "Feel better? Go to hell. I've been there for the past 3 months watching my wife lie to my face every single day. Now it's your turn." Wednesday brought fresh humiliation. Someone, I suspected Derek, though he denied it, had created a social media account called Home Wreckers Anonymous that featured photos and details about people who destroyed marriages. Carla was the featured story, complete with her full name, workplace, and a timeline of her affair with Rick. The account had over 10,000 followers by lunchtime. Carla spent the day hiding in our bedroom while I dealt with reporters, lawyers, and concerned neighbors. Mrs. Henderson from across the street brought over a casserole and a look of barely concealed judgment. "Such a shame," she said, not sounding sorry at all. Carla seemed like such a nice woman. Seemed, I agreed. That's the key word. Thursday morning, Carla emerged from the bedroom with suitcases. "I'm going to stay with my mother for a while," she said, "until this dies down." "Good idea. The kids will be happier without the drama. I'm taking them with me." "No, you're not." She stopped packing and looked at me. "What? The kids are staying here in their home with their schools and friends. You can visit them, but they're not going to be uprooted because of your choices. You can't keep my children from me. I'm not keeping them from you. I'm keeping them stable while their world falls apart around them. My lawyer says your lawyer is about to have bigger problems than custody arrangements." "What's that supposed to mean?" I handed her a legal document that Derek had delivered that morning. "Patricia Calder is suing you personally for alienation of affection. Apparently, North Carolina still has laws about that." Carla read the document, her face going whiter with each page. "She can't do this. She can and she is, and she's asking for damages equal to the value of her marriage, which her lawyer estimates at about $2 million. I don't have $2 million. No, you don't. But I do, or rather we did before you decided to blow up our marriage." She sank into a chair, the legal papers scattered around her feet. "You're going to let her take everything? I'm going to let the legal system decide what you owe for destroying another family, just like I'm going to let it decide what you deserve from our divorce." "Nathan, please, I made a mistake, but I don't deserve this." I looked at her, sitting there, surrounded by the wreckage of her choices, and felt something I hadn't expected. Pity. Not enough to stop what I'd started, but enough to make me sad about how far we'd fallen. "Maybe you don't deserve all of this," I said. "But Rick's wife didn't deserve to have her marriage destroyed either. His kids didn't deserve to have their father exposed as a serial cheater. Our kids didn't deserve to have their mother's affair broadcast on the evening news. So this is revenge. This is justice. There's a difference. She left that afternoon and the house felt different immediately. Lighter somehow, like a storm had passed. The kids were quiet but seemed relieved. Ellie helped me make dinner while Adam set the table without being asked. "Are we going to be okay, Dad?" Ellie asked as we chopped vegetables together. "We're going to be fine," I said. And for the first time in months, I believed it. 2 weeks passed in relative quiet. The media attention died down as other scandals captured the public's attention. The kids settled into a routine that didn't include their mother's constant drama. I went back to work and tried to rebuild some semblance of normal life. But I wasn't done with Carla yet. Derek called on a Friday evening with news that made me smile for the first time in weeks. "Rick Calder was arrested this morning," he said. "For what?" "Tax evasion. Turns out all those expensive gifts he was buying for his girlfriends weren't being reported as income. The IRS doesn't like that." "How much trouble is he in?" "Federal prison kind of trouble. His lawyer's talking about a plea deal, but it looks like he's going to do time." I felt a surge of satisfaction. Rick had used his position and his money to manipulate women and destroy marriages. Now he was going to lose both. What about Patricia's lawsuit? That's the really good news. Rick's been ordered to pay her $4 million in the divorce settlement. Since he's going to prison and won't be able to work, guess who's going to be held liable for alienation of affection damages? Carla. Bingo. Patricia's lawyer filed papers this morning seeking to attach any assets Carla might receive in your divorce settlement. I hung up the phone and sat in my living room looking around at the life I'd built. The house, the furniture, the family photos that would need to be updated now that we were one person short. Everything I'd worked for was still here, still mine. Carla's betrayal had cost her everything and me nothing. Well, almost nothing. It had cost me my marriage, but I was beginning to think that might not be such a loss after all. Saturday morning, Carla called. "We need to talk," she said. Her voice sounded different, smaller, defeated. "About what? About the settlement? About the kids? About ending this?" "Okay." "When?" "Today. Can you meet me for coffee?" I found her at the same coffee shop where I had met Patricia Calder 3 weeks earlier. She looked terrible, thinner, older, like someone who hadn't been sleeping or eating properly. "You look awful," I said, sitting down across from her. "Thank you." That's exactly what a woman wants to hear. "How's your mother's house?" "Cramped. She never liked you, but she likes me even less right now." We sat in awkward silence for a moment before Carla spoke again. "Patricia Calder's lawyer contacted my attorney. They want to settle the alienation of affection suit." "For how much?" "Everything. Whatever I get from our divorce plus my future earnings until the debt is paid off." "That seems fair." She looked at me with something that might have been hatred. "Fair? I'm going to be financially ruined for the rest of my life because of a 3-month affair. You're going to be financially ruined because you destroyed 2 marriages and hurt a lot of people. The affair was just the method. I never meant for any of this to happen, but it did happen. And now, you have to live with the consequences." She was quiet for a long time, staring into her coffee cup like it might contain answers to questions she was afraid to ask. "What do you want from me, Nathan? What will it take for you to call off the dogs? I want you to sign a settlement agreement that gives me full custody of the kids. I want you to waive any claim to alimony or property division. And I want you to publicly apologize to Patricia Calder and her children for destroying their family. And if I don't, then we go to court and everything comes out. Every detail of your affair, every lie you told, every time you chose Rick over your family. The kids will hear it all, and so will everyone else we know." She started crying. Not the dramatic sobs of someone looking for sympathy, but the quiet tears of someone who'd finally understood how completely she'd lost. "I loved you," she whispered, "for 19 years. I loved you. I know. And I loved you too. But love isn't enough when it's not paired with respect and honesty. Can you ever forgive me?" I looked at this woman who'd shared my life for almost 2 decades, who'd given me 2 beautiful children and countless happy memories before. She'd chosen to throw it all away for a man who'd never loved her. "Maybe someday," I said, "but not today, and not in time to save our marriage." She signed the settlement papers that afternoon. Full custody to me, no alimony, no property division. She kept her car and her personal belongings and walked away from everything else she'd helped build. The next week, she published an apology in the local newspaper, a full-page letter acknowledging her affair, taking responsibility for her actions, and expressing remorse for the pain she'd caused Patricia Calder and her children. It was probably the most honest thing she'd written in months. Epilogue 6. Months later. The house feels different now, but not empty. The kids and I have developed our own rhythms, our own traditions. Ellie got into her first-choice college with a full scholarship. Adam joined the debate team and discovered he's good at arguing, a skill that will serve him well in life. Carla visits every other weekend as specified in our custody agreement. She's working as a receptionist at a dental office and living in a studio apartment across town. The visits are cordial but distant, like interactions between polite strangers who happen to share children. Rick Calder was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison. Patricia got the house, the kids, and a settlement that will keep her comfortable for the rest of her life. She sent me a thank you card last month, which seems surreal but oddly appropriate. Carmen and I have been having coffee together on Friday afternoons, ostensibly to discuss work, but increasingly to talk about other things. She's smart and funny and honest in a way that I'd forgotten was possible. We're taking things slowly, but there's something there worth exploring. Derek says I should write a book about the experience, Revenge of the Suburban Dad or something like that. I told him I'm not interested in reliving it, but the truth is I don't think of it as revenge anymore. I think of it as consequences finally catching up with people who thought they were immune to them. Last week I ran into Jenna, one of Carla's former friends, at the grocery store. She looked uncomfortable and tried to avoid eye contact, but I stopped her. "How's Carla doing?" I asked. "She's managing, working hard, trying to rebuild." "That's good. Everyone deserves a second chance." Jenna looked surprised. "You're not angry anymore?" I thought about it for a moment. No, I'm not angry. Anger requires energy I'd rather spend on other things. Like what? Like raising my kids? Like building a life that's based on honesty instead of lies? Like maybe finding someone who understands that love is a choice you make every day, not just a feeling you have when it's convenient. That night I sat on my back porch with a beer and watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of golden red. The kids were inside doing homework. The neighborhood was quiet, and for the first time in a year I felt genuinely at peace. My phone buzzed with a text from Carmen. "Thanks for coffee today. Looking forward to our dinner tomorrow." I smiled and typed back, "Me too." Carla had taught me that people can change, that the person you think you know can become someone entirely different. But she'd also taught me that I was stronger than I'd realized, that I didn't have to accept betrayal just to keep the peace. The divorce was finalized last month. I kept the house, the kids, and most of our assets. Carla kept her car and her debt to Patricia Calder, which will take her about 15 years to pay off. Some people might say I was too harsh, that I destroyed her life over a mistake, but I don't see it that way. Carla destroyed her own life with her choices. I just made sure she couldn't destroy mine, too. The kids are thriving. They see their mother regularly, and while our family looks different now, it's built on a foundation of truth instead of lies, that has to count for something. As for Rick Calder, I heard through Derrick's contacts that he's not adjusting well to prison life. Apparently, men who manipulate and exploit women aren't particularly popular among the general population of federal inmates. I can't say I'm sorry to hear that. Tomorrow is Saturday. Carmen and I are taking the kids to a baseball game, then out for pizza. It's not the life I planned when I married Carla 19 years ago, but it's a good life, an honest life, and honestly, that's all I ever really wanted.